Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Talkin' Rangers podcast. Today is Wednesday, November 29th. I'm Bubbs alongside Joe. Joe, how's it going, man?
It's going good, took we didn't have a show last week, things going
Yeah.
on, holidays, traveling, but we're back. And the Rangers continue to win, still first place in the league. Feels good right now. Just gotta hope they continue to play because it looks like they're gonna continue to play this good, but I mean, teams have fallen off before, so just it's fun to see the team playing really well though.
Yeah, definitely. 15, 4-1, 31 points, still lead the top of the Metropolitan, one of the best teams in the NHL. They had a couple big wins while we were away, so this is going to be a jam-packed episode discussing a lot because there has been a lot that has gone on. Unfortunately, the Rangers took the loss on Monday against the Sabres, which stopped their 3-game win streak that they were on against Pittsburgh, Philly, and then the crazy win over Boston. But they'll be back in action tonight against Detroit to face the Red Wings for the second time this season and second time at home this season. So we'll go back here a couple weeks, or about 2 weeks now it is, go back to November 18th against the New Jersey Devils. Igor Shesterkin's return, and the New York Rangers found a way to win this game. Shesterkin didn't play that great, let in some softies, but this was a game. It was the first battle against the Devils since the Game 7 loss in the postseason. As a Ranger fan and the team in general, you wanted them to come into this game and get a win and bounce back and respond. The Rangers have been the better team this year than the Devils. They've been obviously one of the best teams in the NHL, while the Devils have been off to a bumpy start, and that's due to many different reasons. They've dealt with some injuries and bad goaltending on all that stuff. But the Rangers come out, they start fast. This was an exciting game, really outside of the second period. First period, third period was full of scoring. What was your thoughts just overall before we get into some individual player performance on this game from the Rangers getting the job done at the Prudential Center?
I mean, I don't like being that guy where it's like overreacting about or overhyping a game that
Yeah.
really doesn't have that much meaning right now. But we lost to the Devils last year. We're
Yeah.
playing good. It was almost they didn't really have much to lose, and we did because we're playing so good and they were bad. Hughes' first game didn't have Heischer. Again, we didn't have Fox and Hedel, but it was a game that I think I wanted to win more than other games. Just going back into that building after what happened in the playoffs and just like the Rangers showing up. And just my thing was like, how are they going to look? Like, are they going to get run through the neutral zone with the Devil's speed?
Yep.
Are they going to be able to contain Hughes? Like, is this the same year or same stuff but a new year, or is it going to be a new stuff, new year? Like, are they going to be able to bring all their adjustments to like a team like the Devils where they struggled last year? And they did. Like they came out and I thought completely took away the Devils' speed in the neutral zone. I thought defensively they were great, blocking shots, like a full-on great effort by the team. But like you were mentioning, it was Igor's first game. A little concerning, obviously, but again, it's his first game. I thought it was a complete team effort, though. I mean, again, no matter like how good the teams are, when you play like your rival, most of the time both teams are going to show up to play, and it was a good game.
Yeah, definitely. I thought for again, like you mentioned, it was just a regular season game, and you don't want to put too much stock into those. But the first meeting since the playoffs, it did mean a little extra more, and it was nice to go on the road and beat the Devils because a lot of their fans are obnoxious, and especially this game was another one of these games where Jacob Trouba caught a lot of heat for some of the hits he was delivering, which for some reason Devils fans, I mean NHL fans in general, have a lot of hate for Trouba, but I mean th're all clean hits. I find
That
it.
was a monstrous hit, though.
Yeah,
That hit that he
no, it
threw in
was.
the sick. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
yeah. But I mean, like you knew once that hit happened, you knew Devils fans were going to complain, and sure enough, there they were complaining all over Twitter. It was just, this was almost for the Rangers. If they won this game, you knew you were going to get the Devils fans. Oh, it was the refs, it's Trouba's dirty hits were hurt, and if the Rangers lost this game, it was going to be, oh, you're overrated, all this stuff. We still own you from the postseason, so it was definitely a good win. Igor did let in a couple softies, but it was his first game back. You don't want to put too much into that. Other than that, pieces like Jimmy Vesey, Artemi Panarin, it was really the Artemi Panarin, Jimmy Vesey show, combining for 4 of the 5 goals other than Wheeler's empty netter at the end. What was your thoughts on those two guys' performance? Because they were dominant. Panarin got the scoring started, and Vesey took over from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with VC. I think, I think he's been good the whole year. I think that this game, I don't want to say he dominated. Like, I don't think he was dominating the play and really playing well. But I think for his role in the team as a fourth line player, I thought he's been really good. And in this game, he was getting to good good spots in the offensive zone. Like his first goal, I believe, was just scramble in front of the net and he buried a rebound. The second goal, again, joining up the rush with Trocheck, got to the net and made a really nice play where he kind of spun around and backhanded it in. So
Yep.
been very pleased with Jimmy VC. And then going on to Panarin, he dominated that game.
Yeah.
And that's something that's honestly, like I was saying, not a big deal with the game where it's early in the season doesn't mean much. But I think for Panarin, I think it meant a lot for him after playing bad against this team and then going into this game showing I can play in games against good teams. I can play in tight checking games. And I just thought from the beginning of that game till the end, he was just very good, dominating, aggressive. He didn't seem making many mistakes, back checking, which is insane to say about Panarin. But yeah, impressed by both of them, but really excited to see what Panarin can do in the season where he's going to play good, it looks like, against the good teams now. This could be a dangerous team.
Yeah, definitely. And as you mentioned for Panarin too, it was especially big. And you make a great point because something that it seemed like Panarin struggled with a little bit last year was the Devils' speed and some of the turnovers in neutral zone that he had. And it seems like when the ice, when teams don't give you as much room to breathe, the ice gets kind of shorter, it shrinks, and decision making becomes quicker. That's where Panarin struggled with last year, but that hasn't been the case. And his hot season continues overall in the year. He's got the 11 goals, the 19 assists, the 30 points, which leads the team by far. The next closest in points is Kreider, who has 20. So Panarin leads the team by 10 there. And he continued in that game, which was a good confidence boost. So moving on from the Devils game, you move into now some of the more recent games here. The last two games. We'll start with the Boston game. You were in attendance. This game was crazy. What were your thoughts from being there in person? Because this was a wild game, crazy exciting game as the Rangers came away with 7 goals.
I thought honestly, as a game after Thanksgiving and
Yeah.
Black Friday afternoon game, crowd would be a little quiet, not as into it. But right off the bat, it was a crazy experience. The crowd was so good at MSG. It was loud, and the game itself was a crazy game. Going into that game, I don't know, maybe I was expecting 4 goals total or something really low at both top two teams, top two probably defensive teams this year. And to see 11 goals scored was insane. Just a very entertaining game, high flying game where there was a lot of goals early in the game, back and forth in the game where I think Kreider scored, and then I don't know who scored the goal in between Kreider's goals, but I think maybe it was Geeky or Coyle. Someone scored, and then Kreider right back with the shorthanded goal. The Garden erupted. It was crazy.
Yeah, there was Coyle, I think, and then it was Geeky after that, and then because it was Benino, Kreider, and then Kreider again, and then split between that was, as you mentioned, Coyle and Geeky. But yeah, you make a great point, and I too was thinking, second half from a Rangers perspective too, it was the second half of back to back, and same thing for the Bruins. For them, it was second half of back to back. The day before they lost to the Red Wings at home, you travel. Both teams are traveling. It's a short travel from Philly to New York and then Boston to New York. But second half of back to back, day game, 2 really good defensive teams. This had 3-2, 2-1, kind of 3-1 low scoring written all over it. But when the goals started happening early on, you just kind of was like, you know what? The first period took an hour. You knew this was going to be a crazy fun game. And sure enough, for the next 2 periods in the third period as well. And it was 2 hot goaltenders. Omar coming into this game was playing well. The game before, he only allowed 1 goal, comes into here and gets smoked. And Quick as well had the shutout against, I'm blanking, Pittsburgh. He had the shutout against Pittsburgh, comes into this game, didn't need to do much. What were your thoughts on Quick's performance today or against Boston a couple days ago? I think it was, he did what he needed to do. And when you score 7 goals, you don't need to be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him 4 goals, but I don't think it was bad.
Yeah.
I think,
Better than Omar.
again, don't believe he gave any bad goals. I think most of the goals that he gave up were, rebounds, scrambles in front. I thought, again, he played solid. That's all we need. We all needed him this season just to play a solid, be a decent goaltender.
Yep.
And he's like well exceeded those expectations. And in this game, like it's a big game, again, early in the season, but I mean, the Bruins, at that point, the best team in the league points wise, and you're like one or two, I think, or two or three at that point. So it's a big game. And I think a lot of the players knew that. And I think it seems like Quick can be a guy, like, obviously way too early for the playoffs to talk about, but knock on wood, I think we should be in there. If anything were to happen to Igor, I think I might trust him in the playoffs. He's played good in these big games that he's had to play on early on, and I was pretty impressed. I mean, if he can continue to play, I don't think he's going to continue to play this good, but like at least 75% of what he is, we could have a really good, successful season just based off the backup goalie. Like when he's playing, like you're going to get maybe 30 points out of him this year, which
Yeah.
is really, really good for the Rangers.
Yeah, it's the complete opposite of last year, where the Rangers' backup goaltending situation last season was a disaster early on, and it's now turned into one of their strengths. And I think it just speaks a lot. Lavalette has mentioned a lot of how Quick has come in here, done everything they've asked him to do. He's been good in the locker room, all that stuff, and he earned that. He earned that game against the Bruins. Like you get the shutout against Pittsburgh, they give Shesterkin Philly. He got a good opportunity. He earned that opportunity to go out there against Boston, one of the best teams in the NHL, one of the hotter teams in the NHL coming into this game. He earned that chance to go up against them, and I thought he did well. And look, he wasn't perfect, but the Bruins are going to be able to score too. I mean, they're a good team, and when you put up 7 again, there's going to be some of those garbage time goals, which Boston did put in the back of the net in the third period. What were your thoughts on? I don't know if you've seen it. Did you see Sam Rosen's call on the Bonino goal?
Yeah, I did see that. I thought it was funny. I
It was
mean,
cool.
Sam
Yeah,
Rosen's such an icon.
yeah.
Like he's one of
I,
the best. I can't, at least in my lifetime, your lifetime too. We've never watched Rangers hockey without Sam Rosen,
no.
so he's such an icon.
Yeah. And for Benino's perspective too, I was happy to see him get that goal. He deserved that. He's one of those, players that has come in, has done everything we can ask him to do. He's been another phenomenal signing for Drury. Low cost, bring him in, has been excellent. 50 blocks on the season, which is just crazy. And to get a goal, it's always nice to see those bottom 6 players, like the third line, fourth line
Yeah.
players that are primarily there to, set up the top lines. It's always nice to see them get rewarded with some of those goals and the opportunities that they get. So that was certainly cool to see. Any other closing thoughts on this game before we move on to Monday's game against Buffalo?
No, I'm just, like we were just talking, we went over the game. Like it was a good game. Very entertaining. And,
Yeah.
I also want to say real quick that I'm pretty happy with the progress that I think the first line is making. I think they're starting to come on a little. So that was a good game for them.
Yeah, and then last night too, you talk about first line, talk about Mika. He was able to put one in the back of the net as you shift into last night's game, which was the one positive. And then Mika also had that game against Philly. Do you feel? I know you talk about the first line, but specifically Mika, do you feel he's starting to come along? He owns Philly, but and then last night as well, scoring another goal.
Yeah, it seems like he's getting a little bit more confident. I think him and Wheeler, obviously he's playing with Crowder all this time, but I think they're starting to grow chemistry, the three of them. So you kind of see that, but yeah, no, I think he's playing better. It's good to see him score on one of those one timers. I feel like he
Yeah.
has. I think that was the first time this year he scored on that. So you got to hope that if he can get hot and his shooting percentage could kind of get higher than what it was. I don't think it was very good, but if he can start to get confident, I feel like that's a really good thing for this team, especially with the couple injuries we have, and then you don't really have to put all the weight on Panarin's shoulders. So if he can get hot, then I can see the Rangers continuing their success. But yeah, no, I've seen it from Panarin or Zibanejad where I'm like, all right, he's gonna at the very least start scoring.
Yeah, and three of his games, his 3 goals have scored in the last 3 games. In total this season, he has 5. So he scores in bunches, and you could hope this continues specifically over the next couple games where he's able to get on these hot stretches and able to put in the back of the net consistently. This felt like one of these games that was kind of incoming. Like you knew they've been playing at such a high level. You had such an emotional win over the Bruins where you dominated, you played great. It was against a Sabres team that's struggling, a Sabres team that 2 nights ago allowed 7 when you scored 7. This felt like one of these games at the Rangers where it was going to happen eventually, one of these letdown games. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. Like what you were saying is where the Sabres were kind of playing with not like full on desperation, but they been in the middle of the pack this year, haven't been as good as
Yeah.
that you thought they were going to be, and then they get blown out by the Devils. I think they're playing with more juice, and the Rangers are kind of coming off like that big emotional win, where it's kind of like a recipe for failure, I guess. But I mean, you can't win every game. They were
Right.
in that game most of the game. It was 2-1. I thought the goaltender played really well for the Sabres. He
Yeah.
had that one save on BC, which was incredible.
That was.
But my only takeaway from this game, if you want us to take any like bad things away from it, obviously you lost, but a little concerned about Igor. I don't know. I feel like it's getting to a point where obviously still coming back, third game I think from injury, but I mean you'd like to see. I don't blame it all on him, but 5 goals is a lot to give up.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think I thought he played like okay in this game. I thought he played better than he was playing like against the Devils, but he still can still we were talking about this prior to coming on, where he's not getting screened, they're clean looks and he's just missing. Like I
Seems
don't
like he
know
gives
how
up a
much
lot
he
of like questionable goals. Like he
Yeah.
makes all these amazing saves on breakaways and stuff, and then he's good for maybe one or two like bad goals, like softies.
Yeah, he can make the highlights, but sometimes he struggles with the simple, the boring stuff, which you hope can get better. But yeah, I mean he's been on the injury certainly hasn't helped. I hope he can continue to try and get into a rhythm, and that's too why Quick's performance has been so huge. Because if we had the backup goalie performance that we were getting last year, now we'd be in a much different spot. But I thought again he can make some of these crazy saves, but then he struggles with some of the simple stuff. And he was obviously showing some frustration at the end of the game when he slammed his stick into the boards. But I agree with you. I mean, you ran into a hot goaltender, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen from the Sabres. The Sabres goalies this year have been so weird. They either have really good games or they're terrible. And
They
this was
sent
one of
down
these games.
Levi to like I don't know if it
Yeah.
was the HL team, but I saw they loaned him out. You think Shesterkin is kind of like I wouldn't say like pressing, but you think if he's seen like how well Quick is playing, you think that's like affecting him at all?
It's possible. I mean, I could see it, especially when you hear like Lavaletta's mentioned about like how he's praised Quick a lot. Because I mean, if he let's just say he goes out there and lets up like 4 goals tonight, it's not good, you
Is
know.
Shesty playing today or Quick?
Uh to be
Or
honest
they
with you, not
haven't? I
100%
assume
sure. I don't think
Shesterkin,
that.
right?
Yeah.
And then
Oh
we'll
yeah, I
split the
think it should be
weekend.
Igor. Yeah, probably because then you have the back to back in Nashville and San Jose. But yeah, it could be a little bit of pressing, but I mean, again, you also ran into like if you want to look at it from the flip side, it was a desperate Sabres team.
Yeah.
So they were playing well. And I mean, they've got some pieces. The Sabres have been really disappointing. I thought they were going to be one of those young teams that could make a push towards the postseason and maybe even win a playoff round, but they've been disappointing. And part of it's been their goaltending. But yeah, their goaltending has been so shaky. They either have a really good game or they just stink. And they ran into a hot goaltender. And as an opposing fan, you hate running into a hot goaltender because there's not much you can do. So we move on here to a couple of the injuries. There's a lot of injury news to get to here. So we'll start with the Capo Caco injury. We'll get the negative out of the way before we get into the positive with the Adam Fox return. The injury looked a lot worse when it happened than what we're hearing now, that he still could be back, albeit a couple months from now, but hopefully he could still come back eventually. And that's still a positive, but still a negative. What were your thoughts on this injury and ultimately the future of Capo Caco?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't look good. They looked like
No.
it was like I think it was non-contact. I think he kind of was just like
Yeah.
backpedaling from the play in the corner, and he just like fell awkwardly. It didn't look good. Like I didn't think it maybe was like a broken bone or anything, but it looked like his leg twisted, which I was thinking could be like an ACL injury. Which
Yeah.
if it was torn, that's probably this or definitely the season. So it was concerning to see him because he's a young player. You know, I still have a lot of faith in him in a contract year where he hasn't been playing as well as I think he wants to, but it is unfortunate he's out. But maybe he kind of gets reset here. It looks like he's going to miss a couple months. Good thing he's not out for the whole season, though. I think that's the biggest takeaway is you don't lose him for the whole year.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's unfortunate, and hopefully it gets better quick. Probably, I'd say February, March is when we see Kako next.
Yeah, it seems like it's around then. You just feel for him too, because you go into the season, you had some high expectations. He had a good opportunity to continue to develop. It hasn't his whole career with the Rangers just hasn't gone as I think many of us expected, and he's trying to get back onto the path, trying to get back onto his track with a new coach, a new opportunity, and it still wasn't quite working. And any type of setback definitely hurts. And we'll see obviously what happens when ultimately if he does come back and how he plays. Maybe it could be an opportunity for him to just sit back and kind of watch and take in and see if he can learn anything and you know see if maybe that helps benefits if you're trying to find a silver lining in an injury like this. But it's certainly unfortunate. You hope that he's back sooner rather than later. And when he comes back, he's playing well. Then we move on to some of the positive stuff with injury. We'll get to Adam Fox before we get to Philip Hedl because he's more complicated. Fox will be back tonight. Um, just ultimately, what do you think this brings to the team? And I'll tell you what, I think Zach Jones was actually starting to play better. Not to saying he should stay up. Obviously, Fox is going to take a spot, but I actually thought Jones was starting to play better. He was really rocky in the beginning, but I was actually impressed by him over the last couple games.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was pretty harsh on him early on because
Yeah.
he didn't look good. But I
Nope.
think the biggest thing in hockey, I think, is just confidence and just continuing to play. And I think you could tell as the games got deeper into the game, as started playing more games, more experience, started playing better, which it's nice because I think you can kind of rely on him, I think, now where you don't have to go out and get a defenseman. They still might for the deadline kind of do like a swap where they bring in more of like a veteran guy to be the sixth defenseman. But no, I've been impressed with him. I thought he's been good. And then as far as Fox coming back, I mean, he's the best player on the team. I don't think it's close to. I think you can argue Igor at some spurts, like where he kind of carries the team, but I think the most consistent player in the Rangers is Adam Fox, and I think it's very impressive how well they did without him. And then getting him back today is just such a huge thing for the team. The power play has been good, but I think it's going to obviously be better with him.
Yeah.
And it just overall makes the structure of their defensive core so much better. Where it seems like Lindgren was not playing bad, but wasn't as good, I think, when he was with Fox. And I think that now you can kind of slide back Gustafson to that third line. And I think all of the deep pairs look really good now. And then hopefully, again, that helps out Lindgren play a little bit better. But it's really, really awesome to see Fox back. Because, again, they kind of like a player where you saw his injury, like Kaka, where you thought, worst case scenario, he could be out for the season.
Yeah. And I think, too, as you mentioned with the special teams, with the power play, well, I'll start with the penalty kill. I think the penalty kill's still been very good.
Yeah.
Like it's been one of the really big things. But I've noticed on the power play, I mean, we're still scoring and still successful, but it just doesn't have that. I think there's not as much consistent pressure that we're putting on the power play without Fox. I think a lot of it is, they're clearing the puck. We're trying to get back set up. Like with Fox, I feel like there's a lot more pressure in the ozone during the power play than what it's been recently.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
yeah,
he's a great quarterback, and like
yeah,
you ever like he's so good at like keeping the puck in. He's got some
yeah.
great hand-eye coordination. So you see him knock down pucks. I think he's a little bit better too at shooting for that deflection with Kreider. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Kreider kind of took a little bit of a dive in power play,
Yeah.
even just opportunities once
Yeah, the
Fox went
power
out.
play in general is taking a hit.
But it's still been good though. Like
Yeah.
I give
No, yeah.
Gustafson a lot of credit. He's been really good. So
Yeah, definitely. And as
it's
you
just
mentioned,
not
being the
Adam
quarterback.
Fox, and I mean that's
No.
that's one of the best defensemen in the league. So I don't think that's a knock on him.
No, yeah, I agree. And he's just his hockey IQ is so high to make the right decision and the right passes. And I mean, he's the quarterback. He's one of the best all around players he's talked about on this team. So it's definitely a big boost back into this lineup as they get set for the Red Wings tonight. Now, one more injury to get to, which is a little bit more complicated. That's Philip Hedl. So they placed him on an LTIR, long term IR. He's back skating, which was good, but we talked about this off the stream before we came on. There's still so many unknowns about Hedl.
Yeah,
So
I
it's just
it's like you can't like really predict it because a lot of time, I mean, hockey doesn't give you the injury, but like you can tell, like if the guy breaks his hand, you could see you can see he's pretty much like the ankle or whatever the bone is, and you kind of have an idea what that timeline is most of the time. But with a guy who's had multiple concussions, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 months. So it's nice to see him skating again, but I don't really see him coming back. And then I won't say the near future, but I could see it being like another month.
yeah, it's definitely still it seems like he's a ways out, and he's still got to, which we talked about, still got to take hits and get back out in live game action. Hope everything checks out okay, but it's a positive, but it still feels like he is a little ways away as to Fox, and we've talked about this a lot. I think a lot of us expected Fox to be back, and he is back before Heedle, but hopefully Heedle can get back soon, and then eventually thereafter it'll be Capo Caco. But the Rangers have been tested. They've been tested with a lot of injuries. They'll be tested even more now. They passed the toughest test, which was losing Fox. So you'll see what they can do now. What are your thoughts on Bradinsky? Are you surprised that they didn't bring up Othman?
No, I think that Othman, I don't know. I mean, I don't really watch. I'm not gonna lie and say
Yeah.
I watched the
Yeah.
Hartford games, but from what I've seen, like on Twitter and just like the stats and stuff, yeah, had a good start and then kind of like a lull, and then I think over the last couple of games he's been good again. So you don't really want to rush him. I think that the idea for him or the plan for him could be if you don't want to go out and get a top six winger at the deadline, you bring him in for the playoff push. But I
Yeah.
think it's fine. You let him sit down there, play top 6 minutes, play the power play, and then for Brzezinski, I mean, you can't question that. I think he leads the league in points in the AHL and
Yeah.
fast, has a good shot, a good energetic player. So I'm excited to see Brzezinski up in the lineup. I think he brings a good element to this team that not a lot of them have. I don't see many guys on the team have his speed, and I think he's definitely deserving of being in on an NHL roster. So
Yeah, been around for a little bit, bounced around, see what he can do here as on the third line and see if he can, hopefully get a little bit more out of, maybe even this is nothing to do with Kaka, but maybe even produce maybe a little bit more than what he was doing on that third line with obviously Cooley and Benino. So there was a move today that was made, or yesterday that was made, or whatever it was, 2 days ago yesterday in the NHL, and that is Patrick Kane going to the Red Wings. What are your thoughts on this move? Maybe he'll score tonight. Maybe he'll play tonight. We'll see. But he was out there this morning at morning skate, and all signs are pointing towards him making his debut sometime soon with Detroit.
I mean, wouldn't that be fitting though? Like if he comes back and plays against the Rangers and then looks good and probably will score because that's like the Rangers thing is when former players come to the Garden, they score. So,
Yeah.
it's not like a thing where like they had him and like it was a bad ending and they got rid of him. So if he like does good, I think good for him. I don't really have any animosity against him.
No.
I was in favor of bringing him back just to kind of see what he could be pro or post surgery. See if that really does help him because you could obviously tell last year that it was definitely like
Yeah.
lingering from that whatever it was. I believe a hip. I don't know like the exact injury, but it was a hip injury. So that's a vital part of playing hockey is your hip and your movement. So
Yeah.
um, I hope he does good. I don't have any, like I said, any animosity. I hope he doesn't score today. I hope he has a bad game if he does play. But I think that's kind of funny that he's returning if it is tonight against the Rangers.
Yeah, definitely interesting. You get now two former Rangers in that lineup with Kopp and Kane. The Red Wings are 11-6-3, 25 points. They've won their last three. We could talk, and I know, again, this is more for the deadline, but if the Red Wings happen to fall off and, the Rangers still could use a Kane, you see any chance he comes here at the deadline? Or is that
Prob-
probably out the window? I think it's
Probably
not going to
not.
happen,
I,
but
I think I think if they were gonna bring him back, it would have been now.
now, yeah.
I don't see that. I mean, I could see him getting traded though. I could definitely see him if they don't make if they're not in the playoff contention. It definitely looks like they're not making it because it was only a 1 year deal. So yeah, I could 100% seeing him being traded if he is playing well. Because the Red Wings can take advantage of getting some prospects or whatever they can get back for him. Just a short kind of risk-free deal with that. Um, we'll see what happens with Kane. It's curious. I mean, something to watch. Like if he can go out and be bad, and you're like, oh, we dodged a bullet not signing him, or he could go out and be pretty
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah, it's kind of 50-50 at where he's at in his career. 35 years old, coming off of surgery. It could benefit, it could hurt. We'll see. Look, he's not the same, what he was in Chicago, winning cups and being, he is ultimately the best American born hockey player of all time and all that great stuff. But, he's not quite the same guy. So we'll see what happens with Detroit. We'll see if Detroit can sustain this winning ways. So the Rangers tonight will look to get their second win this season against the Red Wings and second win at home. Then after this, they'll get tomorrow and Friday off before another back-to-back. They'll be in Nashville, and then they'll be home against the San Jose Sharks, who are actually starting to play a little bit better. They've won 2 straight, but still not very good. So expect the Rangers here to be able to, Nashville and San Jose. Nashville is very hot after they were struggling there for a while. Detroit, as we know, is still out there, however long that might remain. But a couple games here coming up for the Rangers that if they continue to do what they do, they should be able to take care of business. What are your thoughts on these next 3 games coming up?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think most of the games now are just relatively the same. Like, it's all go out there, try to get 2 points. I mean, again, they should definitely beat the Sharks at home.
Yeah.
Like that has to be 2 points. I think the Predators are a frisky team. We already lost to them, but again, I mean it's the NHL. You could win any game, you could lose any game. Just my biggest thing is just stay healthy, no more injuries, and just
Yeah.
continue to get better and play good. And I think for the most part, that's been the season where they've been getting better every game, playing good every game. Not staying healthy fully, but for the most part, I think they've been lucky where like they're not getting any like season-ending injuries. But maybe I said that and like Panarin goes down tonight. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But
Yeah. If you
no
would
more.
have told me that the Rangers, sorry, what were you going to say?
No more injuries.
Yeah.
No more injuries, please.
You know what's funny though is like if you would have told me the Rangers before the season would be 15-4-1 and they would have Kako, Hedel, and Fox would all miss time before December, I would have thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
But here we are. Their depth's been very good, and we'll see if that continues. Hoping that continues here tonight and over the course of the next couple months before we get some of these guys back. So that'll do it for episode 9 of the Talking Rangers podcast. We thank you as always for joining us. We'll be back next week with another episode, and please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.